Hey, what's up, everyone? This is me, Eddie, and today we're going to be discussing something about Star Wars, basically. So I know this is a pretty controversial subject, so I know there might be a couple arguments that break out in the comments below, so please just try to keep everything civil. All right, so without further ado, remember, this is just my opinion, okay? No, I don't mean to hate on your movie or whatever. So, all right, so here we go. Personally, when I first saw The Last Jedi, I was pretty disappointed. But, you know, I think that honestly the problem started with, not Episode 8, but actually with Episode 7. So I actually have a redesigned version of the 7th episode. I've got a little audience right here. Hey, guys. What's up? So we're essentially going to discuss my own redesigned version of Episode 7, or essentially how I would have designed the 7th episode, and maybe they'll contribute as well if they want. So, okay, here we go. So essentially, I personally think that Episode 7 should have started not with like the Resistance or anything like that. Sorry. No, not with like the Resistance or anything like that, but personally, I think that it should have just been like the New Republic versus the First Order. What do you guys think? Yeah, I mean, think about it. Essentially, when Episode 6 ends, the good guys win, right? That victory. Yeah, and then they build their own little country, like that's the New Republic. And then all of it comes just crashing down once the sequel trilogy starts, correct? Wait, what happened to that victory? Remember at the end of Episode 7? Sorry, 6? Yeah. Yeah. It was supposed to be a happy victory. It was supposed to be, like, everything's good. And then it all went... Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, alright, so even if we... Considering that there's an Episode 7 to begin with, yes, not everything isn't great, but basically, now that there's a New Republic, like, as an active force in the galaxy, that means that the victory wasn't completely in vain, because there's actually something that's fighting back. Exactly. Also, are you guys all familiar with Legends? Star Wars Legends? There was this extragalactical force called the Yuuzhan Vong. Essentially, that was what invaded the galaxy, and around the same time as the sequel trilogy takes place. But here's what I do. The Imperial Remnant, the Yuuzhan Vong invades, and the Imperial Remnant teams up with the Yuuzhan Vong in order to take over the galaxy. And that's the First Order. Yeah. Essentially, we've already got ourselves a little bit of an enemy here. The New Republic has been rearming, basically, and raiding themselves for conflict. But there's an issue. As with the New Republic from the actual movies, it is somewhat incompetent. And basically, the Resistance should be replaced with the 5th Reserve Fleet. I've actually got a whole list of New Republic like fleets. The first, first Defense Fleet, the 2nd Assault Fleet, 3rd Mobile Fleet, 4th Expeditionary Fleet, and the 5th Reserve Fleet. So the 4th and 5th fleets are the only ones that are actually in action right now. Okay. The 4th one's just... Okay, so this is where Episode 7 should begin. The 4th Expeditionary Fleet, the most formidable opponent against the First Order, has just been crushed in a giant combat. Okay? Corvette slides past the screen. Okay? Then there's Jakku. Corvette heads towards the planet, yeah, and then lands on the planet. You see the ramp doors open. The Corvette's near a little village. You see several armed New Republic soldiers, like, in armor. New Republic soldiers get off. They scan the area, and then we see a familiar face climb off. That's Poe Dameron. Okay? Poe Dameron. He climbs off. And then he. So basically, he and the townspeople like start to talk. Everyone's like, "Oh God, there's a warship here. What's going on?" So basically, Poe Dameron explains that we need to talk to some old man. You remember that old guy that was killed at the beginning of Episode 7? That guy. That's who they need to talk to. Huh? Yeah. So they essentially go to talk to him, and they're like, "Oh God, one of our most brilliant generals has died in a horrific battle. We need to have another general. Like, we need someone another hero. We need someone that can save our country from the First Order. And so the old man like starts to explain, and they're like, oh, I know this old man named Luke Skywalker. Poe Dameron's like, what? Luke Skywalker? Him? He's been gone for years. And the old man's like, no, but don't worry. I've got a fragment of a map that could lead to Luke Skywalker. And then that's when the First Order, just this giant Star Destroyer, zooms in out of hyperspace over the planet. And then we have a battle scene. The captain of the Corvette killed in action, and so is pretty much everyone else. So Poe Dameron's the second highest. Basically, right now, considering he was the second highest leader when he got off, he's the commanding officer right now. All the soldiers, the villagers, whatnot, all the soldiers, all the villagers, as we saw in the movie, are executed by the stormtroopers. By the way, I have a new design for the stormtroopers as well, but I won't be getting to designs and ship classifications for today, at least. Yeah. So essentially. And then everything happens the way it did in the film. Poe is captured onto the finalizer. Finn frees him. And basically, so Finn and Poe get off. They climb onto a TIE fighter. And they head towards Jakku. Finn's like, no, we can't head to Jakku. That's a First Order controlled planet. But they go back anyway. They get shot. Finn and Poe kind of crash land on the planet. That's what happened in episode 7. You saw the 7th episode, right? Yeah. They crash land on the planet, and that's when we meet Rey. And remember BB-8? Yeah, I kind of forgot to mention him, but he's been rolling out wrong, and we meet Rey. But there's just a bit of an issue with Rey. It's kind of hard for a 21st century, guys like us to kind of relate to Rey, correct? I mean, ignoring the whole Mary Sue argument, a scavenger that's kind of in the middle of what do you call it? Middle of a desert. That's kind of hard for us to relate to. So instead, she lives in a giant city, okay? Desert city, controlled by the First Order. So I suppose it's less of a scavenger and more along the lines of some oppressed person living under a government, which is still hard to relate to, but easier, And basically, that's when she meets BB-8. She also meets Finn. And the First Order rapidly realizes that Finn, BB-8, everything they want is with this one girl. So they begin a lockdown of the city. There's First Order cruisers. Yes, there are cruisers, not just Star Destroyers around. I mean, let's be honest. The First Order, they only use one type of ship. What the smallest ship they have is the Star Destroyer. This makes no sense with real-life doctrine, real-life tactics. If you know anything about naval combat, or even space combat, Star Wars combat. Huh? Yeah. Well, no, it makes sense. It's theoretically possible, but why would you want to do that? Yeah, exactly. Having your big ships need to be protected by your smaller ships in order for them to be effective. Also, we might, Star Wars: The Old Republic, right? You're all familiar with that? I think it might be useful to recycle some old designs from there, because considering it's not canon anymore. Never mind. I said I want to get into ship designs too much, so yeah, next time. Sure. So anyways, basically what happens is they find the Millennium Falcon. Now, Rey is a worker at a scrapyard, okay? So she's actually good at fixing things and stuff. She finds the Millennium Falcon. She gets out of there. And the Falcon has let's say it has a cloaking device. It's, extra badassery. It's got a cloaking device, and they use that to get out of there. And for a while, the movie plays out the same way. They meet Han Solo. The big reveal, Han Solo's there. He talks about Luke Skywalker and all that stuff. Yeah. Everyone clapped when he came on screen. God, you're so freaking excited. Yeah, me too. Okay, so we meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, and then the space pirates come in, because a lot of people were a bit iffy on that scene, but I think it was good. It gives off a bit of what do you call it? Suspense. Well, yeah, that too. But it also gives off world building without interfering with the plot. because I really like the prequels, but I do admit there was a huge issue with it. It took world building over plot. And I mean, it kind of paid off. You know, you all recognize the Clone Wars, correct?
Yeah.
Star Wars: The Clone Wars, amazing show. That was built off because the prequels took world building first. Like, sure, the movies weren't too great, but you know, as for most of the sequel trilogy, it has like pretty much no world building. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's ironic. Because they tried so hard to not be the prequels that they ended up being worse than the prequels. Yeah. So basically, anyways, they meet Han. They head to Maz Kanata's castle. Yeah, the thing plays out the same way. Then, like, you know, you meet what do you call it? Kylo Ren and all that stuff. Rey gets captured. Also, when Hosnian Prime's blown up, we do show a bit of like the politics there. Basically, they're talking about, you know, I mentioned the whole fourth expeditionary fleet and stuff like that, right? Yeah. There's like a representative for the fleet. He's like talking about you can't do this. We need to build up our fleet, and they're like you just lost a bunch of random lives in some random attack, and he's like that's because you locked up or executed one of our best generals, and you know, kind of to show the corruption. He's like, the First Order is building a super weapon. We need to stop them. And everyone like thinks he's mad. And then, you know, there's that big red beam of light as all the Hosnian Prime and like its system gets destroyed. Yeah, Rey's captured. Blah blah blah. What do you call it? The New Republic military comes in. Probably the reserve fleet, because they're the weakest ones, and you know, underdogs. We need underdogs. Like the rebellion, per se. So anyways, the reserve fleet comes in, rescues everyone except for Rey, who's been captured. They head towards their base of primary operations on Dakar. That's the planet that the actual resistance was on. So they head to Dakar, or I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. Dakar. It doesn't have a Q. Yeah, it's Q and then U, but it's spelled QAR. Anyways, they head to Dakar. They're like, you know what? We need to destroy this super weapon. So basically, they gather what forces they have and mount an attack on the Starkiller base. But you know, it makes more sense. I've noticed this. It's an increasing trend with like every new movie. Like the forces just get less and less prepared. Let's look at the Phantom Menace. Like 100 starfighters attack a 2-mile wide ship. They blow it up. Let's look at A New Hope. I mean, it was a great movie and all, obviously, but 30 ships attack a moon-sized base. Yeah. Let's look at The Force Awakens. Like 15 fighters attack a planet and they blow it up. They make a next trilogy. You know what it's about? It's about a Starkiller base that uses Death Stars as like fighters, you know? And basically, you know what destroys it? It's an Ewok on a speeder.
Ooh, I love Ewoks.
No, speaking of Ewoks, I think that's the one thing The Last Jedi did well. Porgs, like. The Porgs, because the thing I didn't like about the Ewoks was that, what do you call it? They beat up stormtroopers. They beat up literal, like, imagine just, like, alien invaders came in tomorrow. A couple Stone Agers with sticks and stones defeated it all. That's basically what it is. But the Porgs, no, they're just animals. They're just like cute little animals that were there for a practical reason. Apparently there's a lot of puffins on the island. Like, they're everywhere. So rather than editing the puffins out, they just like added in a new animal. They're like, hey, look. So it was actually a pretty good solution despite all the hate it gets. It's one of the things The Last Jedi, I believe, did right. So, okay, where was I? Anyways, they attack Starkiller base with everything they've got. Rey is rescued, and it's more of a costly battle. For example, Rey doesn't just like lightsaber slash and beat up Kylo Ren anyway, you know, because that makes no sense. She's not trained. Can't have her. Imagine if Luke, like after Obi-Wan dies, imagine if Luke Skywalker picked up a lightsaber, beat Darth Vader in lightsaber combat. That would make a Darth Vader a very scary villain, wouldn't it? Yeah, very, very scary. Anyway, so basically, Yeah, Ray gets her ass handed to her. Several of the soldiers have to like hold him off while they escape on the Falcon. It's a costly victory, basically. And yes, sadly, Han Solo does die because parallels. Yeah, Qui-Gon, which is arguably the second character, died during the Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan, the secondary character during A New Hope, died in Darth Vader, so it just makes sense. Let me see. And yeah, that I think that's kind of where the movie kind of leaves off with more of a somber tone. Basically, much of the reserve fleet has been destroyed. Oh, hey. Much of the reserve fleet has been destroyed, but they managed to locate Luke Skywalker. And Rey heads there on her Falcon, meets Luke. We got that famous, here, take the lightsaber holding scene.
Yeah.
And
when he's on the big mountain.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it ends off. None of that other stuff. So, yeah, I think that's good. What do you guys think? Leave your answers down in the comments below. Remember, remain civil. This is all merely my opinion. Oh yeah, you guys can all come over here. This is all just my opinion. Once again, remain civil and leave your answers in the comment below. What do you think the movie would be like if I made it or something like that? What did you think of the story? You know. Anyways, the sky's up, and you guys are all awesome.
Congratulations.